Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kishore Kishori ki jai, Gaunitai ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're continuing Canto 10, Chapter 6. It's entitled The Killing of the Demon Putana. And we'll be chanting responsively text 10, although we'll be covering text 10, text 11, and text 12 today. So in text 10, Tasmin stanam dujara viryan upanam Gorankam adayashisho dadavatam Gadham karabhyam bhagavan prapidyatat Pranay samam rosa samanvito pibat Tasmin stanam durjara viryan upanam Gorankam adaya shisho dadavatam Gadham karabhyam bhagavan prabhedyatat Pranay samam rosa samanvito pibat Tasmin stanam durjara viryam upanam Gorankam adaya shisho dadavatam Gadham karabhyam bhagavan prapidyatat Pranay samam rosa samanvito pibat. Please chant. Tasmin stanam durjara viryan udapam Gorakam madaya shisho dadavata Gadham karabhyam bhagavan prapidyatat Pranay samam rosa samanvito pibat Tasmin stanam durjara viryan upanam Goranka Madaya Shishota Davata. Gadham Karabhyam Bhagavan Prapetyatat. Pranay Samam Rosa Samanvito Pibat. So do the word for word. Tasmin, in that very spot. Stanam, the breast. Durjara Viryam, a very powerful weapon mixed with poison. Ubanam, which was fierce. Gora, the most ferocious Putana. Ankam, on her lap. Adayam, placing. Shisho, in the mouth of the child. Dadao, pushed. Ata, thereupon. Gadham, very hard. Karabhyam, with both hands. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prapedya, giving her great pain. Tatpranay, her life. Samam, along with. Rosa Samanvitaha, being very angry at her. Spibat, sucking her breast. And the translation for text 10, Vajra Prabhupada. On that very spot, the fiercely dangerous Rakshasi took Krishna on her lap and pushed her breast into his mouth. The nipple of her breast was smeared with a dangerous, immediately effective poison. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, becoming very angry at her, took hold of her breast, squeezed it very hard with both hands, and sucked out both the poison and her life. Purport. It's very short, and the next two verses also have an extremely short purport. So the purport to text 10. Lord Krishna was not angry at Putana for his own sake. Rather, he was angry because the Rakshasi had killed so many small children in Vrajabhumi. Therefore, he decided that she should be punished by having to forfeit her life. And I'll read text 11 and 12. Samuncha munchala iti prabhasmi nispidya manakila jiva marmani vivritya netre charanao pujo muhu prashvina gatra shipati rurodaham. And the translation for text 11. Unbearably pressed in every vital point, the demon Putana began to cry, "Please leave me, suck my breasts no longer." Perspiring, her eyes wide open, and her arms and legs flailing, she cried very loudly again and again. Purport. The Rakshasi was severely punished by Krishna. She threw her arms and legs about, and Krishna also began to kick her with his legs to punish her properly for her mischievous activities. Text 12. Tasya savenati kabira ramhasa sadrir mahajayaus chachala sagraham rasadishascha pratinidire janaha petsu shito vajra nipata shankaya. And the translation for text 12. As Putana screamed loudly and forcefully, the earth with its mountains and outer space with its planets trembled. The lower planets in all directions vibrated, and people fell down, fearing that thunderbolts were falling upon them. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that in this verse, the word rasa refers to the planetary systems below the earth, such as Rastala, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, and Talatala. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamlam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatam Vitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakavatam Sham. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpataribhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnebhyo namo namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Ramapada Swami iti namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I looked at Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, and he's pointing to particularly this word tasmin, the first word of this verse, that means this very spot. So it's significant that attention is being drawn to the place in which Putana is offering her poisoned breast to the baby, Krishna. Now, I found myself thinking, because my reference point sometimes is photography, because I've studied that. So there's this term in photography that there's an interior drama, meaning that one looks at the private experience, and this gives meaning to the external event. And now the external event, in this particular context, it has a lot of ambiguity in terms of this action that's been performed by Putana. So Putana has entered the room where Krishna is lying on a bed. So we get that mentioned in the 8th verse, just prior to this. And she's taken Krishna upon her lap. And now she's pushing her breast into his mouth. So it's a very graphic description. So it's actually taking place in the very room, the most private place where baby Krishna is lying. Now there's usually a very romantic notion about mothering an infant. And of course, persons understand that there's some physical and emotional demands, but these are considered secondary to the satisfaction that's received from mothering a baby. Now, the infant stage is the thing that marks the infant stage is that it's accompanied by a complete dependence of the infant on the mother. And if one looks at studies that have been done on mothering, mothers that say, in retrospect, oh, this was their favorite stage in their child's life, or that bonding with the child. And it's what they relished the most. Of all the stages in their child's growth, that infant stage was the most relishable. And what they relished the most was this complete dependence of the infant on them. So there's a special closeness. And what they're relishing, in some sense, is this kind of lack of separation. There's not separation. The infant's very much connected to them. So there's a very intense connection. There's time that's spent caring for the infant, nursing the infant, perhaps rocking the child to sleep, seeing facial expressions that can change daily, the cuddling of the child, or singing to the child. So these are all activities that the mother's performing in relation to this little entity that's extremely close and extremely dependent upon them. And there's almost a kind of instinctive knowing of what it is that the baby's needs and wants are, because they're relatively simple. Now, breastfeeding takes place in the first 6 months of life for a human. And there's this description that a mother feels merged or meshed with the child. It's so interconnected. And so there comes to be a feeling of closeness and a feeling of peace through going through this activity of breastfeeding. Now, Mother Yasoda's affection for Krishna is described, and I'm going to read the description because it paints this picture of how her interaction with her infant is. After rising early in the morning, Mother Yasoda first of all offered her breast milk to Krishna. It's the first thing she did. And then she began to chant various mantras for his protection. So it's a transcendental mother. And then she would decorate his forehead very nicely and bind his arms with protective talismans. This is the transcendental mother. Now, Srila Prabhupada states in Nectar of Devotion that by all these activities, it is definitely understood that she's the emblem, if one were to say, of material affection for her child. So, you know, we hear the regular way of mothering, and then we hear how Mother Yasoda is doing it. It's all about protecting Krishna. So the arms are bound with the talismans, the forehead's decorated with tilak, she's chanting mantras for his protection after she offers him the breast milk. So this is that description. And going back to that idea of that, you know, one's having to look at the inner experience to understand the external event, there's this problem with this ambiguity of Putana arriving in this room and how she's going about this supposed mothering. So Putana is nursing baby Krishna. It says she took Krishna upon her lap. She pushed her breast into his mouth. And even Yasoda and Rohini, who's standing on the side, they see her, and this is the words that were used in the previous text, treating the child like a mother. So this is what they're perceiving. Now, there's also a description of the kind of bond between Yasoda and Rohini and their babies. And this comes a little bit later when they're a little bit older, because right now it's not long after the birth. But it indicates something of the relationship. And this is, I think, essential to get the sense of the inner experience of their mothering of Krishna. So here's a description. It comes from the 8th chapter of the 10th canto in the 23rd verse. Dressed with muddy earth, mixed with cow dung, the babies looked very beautiful. And when they went to their mothers, Yasoda and Rohini picked them up with great affection, embraced them, and allowed them to suck the milk flowing from their breasts. While sucking the milk, the babies smiled, and their small teeth were visible. Their mothers, upon seeing those beautiful teeth, enjoyed great transcendental bliss. So this is the description of their mothering. And Srila Prabhupada, he comments that actually it's the arrangement of Yoga Maya, that the babies are thinking, here is my mother. So Krishna and Balaram, here is my mother. And it is by the affection of the mothers that the milk is flowing from their breasts, and that the babies are drinking it. And the mother's also thinking, here is my son. So that's the affection, the emphasis on the bond, and consciously thinking, this is the relationship we have. So I'm painting this graphic picture just to perhaps in some sense highlight the transcendental mothering versus what we're getting exposed to here with Putana. Now, the difference in this scenario with Putana is that the nipple of her breast is smeared with poison. And therein lies the difference in the meaning of acting like a mother. I mean, there's a certain horrific aspect to it, taking into account the dependence of a baby, that the mother is offering that very part of herself that is allowing for that relationship and that bonding. But in this case, that supposed mothering comes with poison on the breast. So it's very shocking, actually, if one analyzes it, that there's an entity who's utilizing, I mean, here it's called a dangerous weapon. She's using her breast as a weapon. And also this particular difference in this whole scenario too that can be looked at is that Krishna performs this action of holding onto her breast with both of his hands, and but he does it so tightly that she can't pull away. So this is a little bit unusual. First of all, the infant having so much strength. Now, that internal drama is that actually Krishna is consciously angry with Putana. And it's not because he knows of her intention with him, or that he understands that the breast has been used as a weapon to bring about his destruction or supposed destruction. At least that's her intent. But he's angry with her because he knows that she's planning to kill all the babies in Vraja by offering her breast. So it's such a heinous crime I mean, one gets exposed. I mean, I do this role in the temple of being part of a child protection team, and sometimes one gets exposed to a nightmare figure of a mother. It has happened, and it's very difficult to comprehend that the activities that go with nurturing a child can at times be completely absent in some mothers. And as opposed to protection being the highest priority, one actually finds that some persons who should be in a relationship with a child will in fact place their child in the most dangerous situation, crime, of whatever crime, because a child is so, but instead, dangerous situation. One is vibes, get challenged. And in some sense, I mean, one knows the external way that Putin is presenting herself, and the idea that poison is being put on the breast is truly a horrific thing. I mean, taking into account the significance of somebody posing in the role of a mother. So it's highly deceptive, and one finds too, like in working on this child protection, one finds that, you know, a woman or someone who, usually is a mother, who's lacking this protective instinct, in the same way is calm about the child getting harmed. Like a normal person, a normal mother does everything to prevent harm. Somebody who has that inability to bond or doesn't offer that kind of bonding or nurturing is very calm about the child being harmed. It doesn't cause conflict. In fact, the person doesn't even see that that it's violating all social norms, all duty, all responsibilities being violated. So, so when I'm reading this, I'm understanding it's not actually that unusual. It actually goes on. So anyway, quite an eye-opening kind of area. Yeah. So now there's a description of Krishna, how he actually presents himself. So this is the external and Krishna. There's a description of him as being very mild and very gentle. So that's how he's actually coming across. And here's a little description that I'm going to read verbatim. When Krishna was lying down flat, sucking the toes of his feet, sometimes throwing his legs upward, sometimes crying, and sometimes smiling, Mother Yasoda, seeing her son in such pastimes, did not show any sign of restricting him, but rather began to watch her child with eagerness, enjoying these childhood pastimes. So there's relishing all the little movements that are done. It's so significant. You know, the legs being kicked upwards, the smile, the cry, everything is relished. It's a cause of great joy. And she permits all the activities to go on because she's seen each one as so significant. And in fact, Krishna, he enhances the parental love of Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj with the activities of his childish body. So that's how he enhances their parental love. He specifically goes through these motions, kicking the legs upwards, smiling, sometimes crying. Yeah. And a little bit later, we're going to get a description, and this is from Nectar of Devotion, where this is how the description is of Krishna. He was sometimes stepping with his legs again and again, sometimes crying, sometimes smiling, sometimes sucking his thumb, and sometimes lying down flat. So all little movements of the body, very precise, and they're actually arousing great parental love on the part of Yasoda and Nanda. And there's a listing in Nectar of Devotion of the devotees that fall into the category of having this parental love, transcendental parental love, and Nanda and Yasoda are at the very top of the list. So they have perfected this parental love. The love is aroused by every slight change in Krishna's bodily movement. So we can understand something of how Yasoda is looking upon somebody presenting as a mother. This is what she's actually going through. So she sees somebody coming as a mother, taking the child upon her lap. So she's not restricting it. She didn't restrict Krishna in any way in his movements because it was so relishable to her. In the same way, she didn't restrict Putana when Putana arrived in the very room where Krishna's lying. You know, it's going to be the scene of the crime, so to speak. So Putana is actually a child killer. So sometimes we have the term for, you know, what I've tried to describe in the present time. You know, one describes somebody as a child abuser or a child molester because there's this complete disregard for relationship with the young individual that's dependent on them. So Putana is a child killer, and she deceived Krishna with this show of motherly affection. You can see it's got nothing to do with what I've read of how Mother Yasoda is interacting with Krishna. And that emblem of material affection is how she's described by Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he also writes, he just puts it in one line. Putana offered him her breast milk and was killed by Krishna's prowess. One line by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur from Krishna Samhita. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, going back to him, he states that there's a reason that's given for Krishna's anger, which we heard. He knows that her intention is to continue her child-killing activity. So Krishna brings out his power of destruction. So in his baby form, fully conscious of what her intentions are to continue her child-killing activity, Krishna brings out his Samhara Shakti. That's the description by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he sucks out her impure life. That's how he puts it. So he completely removes her life from her. So this is the punishment. So, you know, when one's dealing like with somebody who's, you know, criminal in terms of how they're dealing with their child, then one thinks, what is the appropriate punishment for this kind of horrendous behavior? You know, leaving the child in danger, feeling calm about it. One thinks, what is the punishment for it? And here we see how Krishna delivers punishment directly to somebody who's a child killer. He actually sucks out her impure life. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out, I mean, this could be a kindness even on the part of Krishna, which indeed it is, because she does get to continue her mothering role, or at least that little section that he accepted, them presenting as a mother. He allows her to actually develop that role later. But it says that Krishna, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur specifically says it's not that Krishna personally sucked out her life air. But actually it's his potency that does the work. So he's separate from it. So he's not attached to, you know, pulling out her life air as somebody might be a little bit attached to punishing a, you know, child abuser. Rather, it's his Shakti, that's his potency, spiritual strength, that's squeezed on all her sensitive points. So causing her to flail her legs and arms, because he's holding on to that very delicate organ of the body. And it's actually so sensitive that her legs and arms start flailing. It's causing her extreme pain. And Krishna's using all his spiritual strength to perform this activity. And that's where we're reading here that actually, and this is Srila Prabhupada saying, the same activity that Krishna used for Mother Yasoda, where, you know, he would kick his legs upwards and it was arousing so much parental love, now he used his legs to kick Putana. And this was part of his punishment. And Srila Prabhupada says here, he wants to punish her properly. I must say, you know, reading this and just knowing how horrific it is, you know, seeing persons who don't fulfill this mothering role properly, reading this, you know, proper punishment, there's a sense of, ah, yes, very good. Because one understands it's so horrific, an act of harming a child deliberately. So, and Srila Prabhupada writes that Krishna accepted her activities as motherly. This is his extreme kindness. Just that there was that little iota of presenting as a mother. He accepted that, but it was in order to stop her from her continued child-killing activities that he immediately killed her. So this is what I got from going through these 3 verses, and if there's any thought to expand on this discussion, it's open.
Thank you, Mataji, for the class. I was wondering that the prior 6 children that were born before Krishna were killed because there was a curse occurred lives before. It was predicted. And Putana was kind of like the instrument for that to happen. And the children went back to Godhead in the same way to Putana. What happened to the other children that were killed by the orders of Kamsa? Why Krishna is angry at her if he, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, should be aware of the whole situation that has to happen in order to fulfill certain designations of destiny. Am I clear?
Yes. Your question is taken into account that there were previous deaths of 6 children, and you're looking at this particular situation, and I mean, there was a certain destined reason for those 6 children having to be killed shortly after birth. And in this particular case, we've got Putana going about killing children, and she's coming to kill Krishna, as she thinks. Mm-hmm. And so your question is, why would Krishna actually even be experiencing anger? Because after all, there's a destined something that has to play itself out. And if that destined something is Putana having to go through killing, why would he even be angry? Because he understands the whole picture. Well, she hasn't yet killed all those babies that she's been instructed by Kamsa to kill. But it's her intent to kill all the children. The instruction that was given by Kamsa's ministers to him was that, he had to make sure that, Krishna was not left alive anywhere. So because he couldn't be identified, then best to kill all the children that had been born within the last 10 days or just slightly more. So that was the instruction. So Putana was given that task. She's specifically a child killer. So she's given the task that she must actually kill all the children in Vraja that are born within the last 10 days or just a little bit more than that. So she's on her mission. And she comes in a particular way. We heard how she presents herself as extremely beautiful. The beauty is so bewildering that persons lose their that keeping up of the guard that is usually there, or that desire to protect. It drops in the face of her extreme beauty, or how she presents herself. So. And not only is there the presentation in that way to allow everybody to drop their guard, but she then actually is also, her method of killing is to offer the breast, which, I've tried to highlight how significant the sucking of milk is by an infant, or the milk being offered by the mother. She's going to be doing that to innumerable little infants in Vraja, coating her nipple with poison. So it's highly deceptive, her activity, on two parts, her presentation and the actual act. So specifically what is said by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is the Krishna's anger at her is that she's got this intent to kill all those children. So that is what he's angry, because Krishna has that ability to know what the desire and the intentions are. So this is that hidden internal drama. Krishna's experience of anger because he knows what her intent is. She's going to proceed with her child-killing activity. So he's got a right, and I've tried to, in some way highlight that, to actually be extremely angry. I mean, I can relate, I've tried to sort of mention it a little bit, I can relate very much myself when somebody is deceptively presenting as mother, but that person is actually harming their child. Like, in fact, it's even putting a child in a dangerous situation, and is calm about it, because they can go on with their life, as long as whatever selfish thing is taken care of, and if the child's put in danger, it's not a problem as long as their selfish thing is taken care of. So one experiences anger just observing something like it. Krishna is going to be angry. This presentation, this deceptive means, and she's going to be a child killer. Infants at their most vulnerable, and the significance of that time period for the mother and the child experiencing such a mutual exchange of affection is going to be denied to so many proper parents, so many children that could flourish into wonderful adults because they had that affectionate exchange at that infancy stage. She's going to go through the external deceptive motions that she's supposedly mothering, but she's killing. So he's angry, and one can be completely angry. So he he prefers to prevent that. And any sane person, if you know that a child is being harmed by a negligent adult, one's going to intervene in some way. I mean, involving the government or authorities, one will intervene. It's one's duty. Krishna is going to intervene before this child killing goes on. He's going to be angry naturally. So, yeah, that's my response.
Yeah, because later, when the residents of Braja burned her body after being chopped in pieces and burned, she get relieved of all her sinful activities, and the smoke starts smelling like Guru incense, and she goes back to Godhead. But at the beginning, that fury from him, when she's the instrument of destiny to have all this fulfilled, this has to happen.
Well, it's not destiny for those children to be killed, because Krishna chooses. And he's chosen that those children should live. And he's not going to allow her to be the instrument of their death. So he's directly intervening.
Yeah.
And the fact that her body is fragrant thereafter is because his touch destroyed all her sinful activity. And in fact, that's how taking shelter of Krishna works. One's sinful activities and tendencies get destroyed. So particularly the tendencies. So her tendency is to kill children. So he destroyed it by his touch. It's only Krishna who's able to do that.
Abominable cry.
So yeah, it's.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, his unbelievable kindness and spiritual strength that allows for that removal of sinful tendency. So if there isn't anything else, thank you very, very much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
How was the celebration of Mr. Mohit's birthday yesterday?